Suki now. Hell yeah, I know my dogs are watching. And if you ain't, I know you will be. And if you are my dog and you aren't watching yet, why aren't you watching yet? I thought we were my dog. Speaking of my dogs, got an extra special one in the house to go along with my top 2 dogs joining us today. And look, guys, we're going to do it a little bit differently today. Usually, we keep it mindset talk. We're trying to get busy living. We're not trying to, trying to be political all the time. But there's some extra special stuff that's happening out there. It's not special. It's actually devastating. And it hit me in the heart, man, because I actually know what it's like to flee from a fire inside a burning building where there's no exit. I've jumped out of a 2nd-story window to save myself and my grandmother's lives. And man, I know what it's like to have your heart pounded like that. So first, let me welcome to the stage the one and only dazzling D-Rex.
I didn't realize you were going to do the trumpet today.
Yes, and I also want to say thank you, D-Rex, for doing this with me every single week. You deserve extra special singled out attention. I know you hate it, but I want to tell you I love you. Thank you very much for doing this with me. Now, can we bring Carolina into the podcast?
Absolutely. Let's welcome Caro.
What's up, girl? How are you? Thank you also
Wonderful
very much
you.
for doing this thing.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here again. Thank you. What about the That's just exclusive for that.
I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe adding a flute there. But yeah, D-Rex, she's trumpetable.
No, that's
D-Rex.
Sure. Yeah, that's.
But you know what?
You have
honestly,
to come with something for me.
I am beside myself. I can't believe that you guys actually are doing this thing with me. You bless me with your presence so many ways. I just get to brag about it in front of people once a week. Thank you very much for doing this. And as a matter of fact, it's time just to let's get him on. Let's get on our guy, Lief Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
So
Lief
we
Channing
are
Smith
welcoming today's guest.
Is our guest today,
Lief
man.
Channing
This guy,
Smith, where are you at? You are here.
Hell yeah.
Hey guys.
Hi, Lief.
Hey, I am in Kahului, Maui right now. I am at my office at the dunes at Maui Lani. I'm the director of golf here, and I've been on and off Maui for about 10 years.
Excellent. Excellent. And that sounds wonderful. Obviously, there's been some horrific events happening there just recently. And it's the reason we wanted to have you here to talk about it, because you're so close to the action and you're so close to the volunteer rescue efforts. And there's so much that you can tell us about it that the news would never cover.
Yeah, thank you, Lief, for your efforts.
So in the news, what I've been told lately is kind of on the mainland, there's not being a lot on the mainstream news actually being talked about. They covered the fires and the deaths and a lot of the devastation early on, and probably for about first 5, 6, 7 days, but it's kind of dropped off recently with the updates on they updated you when Joe Biden came, which was just 2 days ago. But besides that, they're really not giving much coverage to it.
Wow. How many days did it take for the president to show up? 16 days?
It was 14. He got here 2 weeks after it happened, pretty much.
What the hell? That's the whole reason that we do this. That's the whole reason that we pay taxes. It's the whole reason we gather, so that when shit happens, we know that people are there to help us, right? That's the whole point. I can't believe it. What could possibly be more important? I don't give a damn if your daughter's giving birth. You're the damn president. You need to be where the shit's hitting the fan. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was, there was a lot of unrest. There's been a lot of people that are very, has a short fuse right now. It's been, it was a little while before he showed up or before we had a presence here. But there is a lot of good things that are in order and working right now in the process with FEMA and Red Cross and the County of Maui. Our movement during the first 5, 6, 7 days our job was just to support the people and support our brothers and sisters on the west side, to make sure that they knew that, we loved them and we wanted to take care of them. We didn't know how long it would take before the first wave would come through of National Guard and stuff. But the Maui Police Department, the Maui Fire Department, they've been on the ground since it started, and the DLNR, which is the Department of Land and Natural Resources, because those guys have been working their tail off up country. Because not sure if you know, but there was also fires up on the Haleakala, up on Olinda, which is the other mountain. I'm on the West Maui's, which is where the fire that hit Lahaina was through the West Maui's. And then the other mountain is Haleakala. There was fires going down up there as well, and all the DLNR and firemen were taking care of that fire, which was still burning. It's not contained as of just a couple days ago.
So you're talking about this is Haleakala right here in the
Yeah.
center, right? So where that red arrow is where you're at.
Yes.
So you're in the neck there, right? And
Yep.
so there's West Maui, which is this
Yep.
mountain over here, and Lahaina's here.
Yes.
And so the wind came up from the southeast along this coast. Is that how
No,
it
no.
happened?
It came across from basically where my dot is, where central. It came from there and wrapped around the mountain towards Lahaina.
How does wind wrap around a mountain?
Well, it went
crazy.
over the mountain. What's happened is it was the winds from Dora, which was around 400 miles south of us. It was the outer bands of wind that were wrapping around the islands. And what it did is it hit the north side of the West Maui's and went over the top of the mountain. And when it went down the west side, which is where Lahaina is, it caught, a good 30, 40 mile an hour of speed as it went down the mountain. And that's where we had basically a perfect storm of 6 to 8 months of dry conditions, weak power lines and power poles. And it was a perfect storm in that situation that caused, the intense flames that happened, because it's really unbelievable. Unless you've seen it and been here, it's worse than what you've probably seen on television. If you see it in person, it's a lot worse. To think that happens in the 21st century.
Yeah, it's incredible. You think of this is paradise. Nothing like this could ever happen. And this is an especially horrific thing to happen. I heard some of the stories about what it was like to have to escape into the ocean with people with their families, and they could hear everything burning and they'd hear people suffering. And I can't imagine how you ever get over something like that. And then I hear people speaking now about, we're ready to rebuild, we're going to rebuild. And that resilience is really amazing.
Yeah, and that comes from the tight-knit community. So Hawaiians, Polynesian people, very close-knit people. Like I said, that it's kind of very resemblance of where I'm from.
Let's talk about that for a second, and then we'll come back to this community here. You're actually not from Hawaii.
No,
tell us where you're from.
I'm from Natchez, Mississippi, which is on the southwestern tip of the state, right above Baton Rouge, right on the Mississippi River. It's an old South town, real old. It's the oldest city on the Mississippi River.
Yeah, I didn't think that was a Hawaiian accent there. Yeah. So when did you? What brought you to Hawaii then? So,
about 10 years ago, I had an opportunity to move out here. I was living on the Emerald Coast. I was living on 38, and actually I was in Blue Mountain at that point. So I was living at Blue Mountain Beach, had a beautiful life there, and a lot of cool stuff going on. And I love that part of the United States. Part of Florida is my favorite spot. Being on the Emerald Coast and being there, and had an opportunity to move to Maui, and just jumped at the opportunity and kind of switched career paths from being a high school teacher and head baseball coach to becoming a MLB scout and being a director of golf and general manager at a golf course.
Wow, working in baseball and golf on Maui.
I know.
Yeah, that's hard life. So you're getting busy living out there, my brother. So when we first met out in Florida, you were coaching high school, right? Or no, were you doing some sort of like private league or something?
Yeah, so I had an indoor facility where I was training baseball players, and I also was coaching high school. I think I was coaching at South Walton High School when I first met you. I was at the high school because I actually did a fundraiser at La Botana. Remember, where we gave part of the proceeds back to the travel baseball team?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
I remember I had a couple of people from from around the community came in and dinner, and gave 15% back to back to the baseball stuff. Yeah, so I was just doing baseball back then and teaching school, and had an opportunity to change my career path, and it has been a good one. Like I said, I love Maui. It's my home. Like I've it's done a lot for me. The people here have done a lot for me. It's been a beautiful place. But like I was saying, it's very similar to where I'm from in the South, where it's kind of family based. Everybody, it's like when you say we're going to get and rebuild this thing, it reminds me about kind of what happened in South Mississippi after Katrina, when the community started pulling together and helping each other out. It makes your community that much tighter. And we're on a small island in the middle of the Pacific and the most remote part of the world. So it's very tight knit community. People take care of each other. The aloha, that's a real thing. Like I'm very fortunate to be in a position that I'm able to help so many people that have helped me. So just very fortunate.
Blake
So
said,
how did you got involved with?
Sorry, go ahead, Carol.
Hey, Lief, so how did you get involved with this rescue effort in Maui? Like, how did you ended up making this?
It's kind of a surreal thing, I don't really. I run towards adversity and to try to problem solve. That's just that's kind of in my nature. So I felt a responsibility when people asked me. Literally, I was just asked, could I help? And then I jumped in head first with my friend Nick Blecky, and me and him had the means and ability, both single, no kids, big trucks. We got a lot of connections. We have trailers. Dusty Newkirk, a good friend of mine, he owns a company called The Bounce Rentals.
So talk to us real quick here about oh, we lost you there for a second, bud. Talk to us real quick here about this disaster relief fund. I've got a little banner here that we can run so that you guys can see what the link is there. Please, if you would, guys. Obviously, man, I was just saying a second ago, I kind of ranted about the fact that when shit hits the fan, you think that your government will be there for you. That's what you hope and it's supposed to happen, but obviously you can't count on that. And I'm living proof that without help, we're all in this together, So this Lahaina Disaster Relief Fund in Kahului, that's where you're at, isn't it, Lief?
Yeah, that's where I'm based at. So we have kind of like a little outpost set up at my house where we have tents set up where we have a lot of donations. But they've been coming in from Colorado, Washington, California, Florida, Nebraska, Tennessee, Georgia, stuff coming in from all over the country. So we've been kind of basing it out of there, and then figuring out what our effort, because it changes every day, right? So we've raised a lot of the money that was raised early on just went straight to my Venmo. I never asked anybody for anything. It just started pouring in. And so I felt a responsibility that I'm going to make sure this money and these supplies get into the right people's hands. And, between me and Nick, because Nick is a boat captain. So Nick was very involved in so all the help it was going by sea. He had a pulse on all the captains and what was going on with the efforts by sea. And then we were also coordinating all the stuff by land so we could get past the barricades. Because they had it locked down for the first, 5-6 days. They weren't letting anybody in, but we were fortunate enough to be able to get in on several different fronts and be able to deliver basically life-saving aid. We did over 1,000 gallons of fuel. So far to this day, we've done around 3,000 meals. We delivered during that first week about 7,000 pounds of ice, tents, clothes, just truck convoys full of stuff that was needed on that side, helping to set up shelters. But it was a coordination between a lot of different people. There's so many people in this community that were helping out, right? So there's 100 people just like me that were doing the same thing, using their restaurant space or just donating whatever they could, time, delivering stuff. So it was a community effort. Like I said, it reminded me of, it reminds me of the South. It's like Mississippi without the view.
And I think that's important to note. This Lahaina Disaster Relief Fund is obviously probably just one of countless relief funds, right? And when I confronted you with how you felt, we should approach this, we could we could channel the money towards the big wig corporations, but what the hell point? What's the point when you have people that know the business owners, know how to shake the right hand and pass it along? Like the food is going straight from plate, or the money's going basically straight into the mouth. You know what I'm saying? When
Yeah.
by going this route, and that's interesting that you said here. Excuse me, that in this little on this Lahaina Disaster Relief Fund, have
Yep.
access to multiple boats to stock up at nearby ports and are working out of the dunes. That's where you're at, right? The dunes?
Yeah, that's the dunes. Yeah, dunes
Yeah,
of Maui,
yeah.
of course. So we had a lot. So we have the restaurant space here, which our owners at Fuego, it's an Argentinian steakhouse. So they actually have closed for breakfast and lunch right now. So we're able to use that kitchen to pump out meals in the morning, and then we have them usually have everything delivered by about 10:30, 11 in the morning. And we've teamed up with Hopper Maui and the Salvation Army. So we have a couple of avenues where everything's being delivered. Which has been first responders, DLNR, Maui Police Department, Fire Department, and just going to some of the shelters or hotels now that they have. Because about 90% of people are now put up in hotels in Kaanapali along the strip. So there's a lot of people's second and third homes that are being used for housing, and then a lot of hotels. Pretty much all the major resorts, the Hyatts, the Westins, the Sheratons, the Marriotts, they're all full of people that lost their homes. I think they said there's 1,900 people right now in those hotels.
Wow.
And they're being FEMA's paying, making sure those are paid for, and they're also getting 3 meals a day. But the immediate future, this is going to be a long haul. So we're looking at a year before it's even clean, $1 billion, and 1 year before the area is even cleaned, before the EPA can get in there and literally scrape it, because you're going to have adjusters come in there. All the insurance companies are going to have to take pictures and get notified before you clean it. They're going to have to make sure they have everything there, because there's going to be so many insurance claims. It is the enormity of the situation is so profound that it's hard to comprehend, because of the thousands of people, the hundreds of businesses that have been affected. Like, there's so many layers to what has happened. It's going to take a long time to clean it up.
I believe were you, Lief, a part of the migration that happened after Katrina, or did you come a little bit later?
Oh, I came to Florida in 2006, and Katrina was 2005.
Yeah, so pretty close. That was crazy. But you were mentioning the other day that what was that area that you said that you were talking about the other day, where they basically were all just the whole, I think it was like a
Waveland
part. It was like, was it near a channel? Is that why that was so destroyed like that?
You're talking about here on Maui?
No, I'm talking about in Katrina.
Yeah, so Waveland was the area that just got totally flattened during Katrina. I don't know if you remember, it was just literally nothing was left except for the concrete foundations.
Foundations, yeah, just foundations.
Yeah. So that's
crazy.
That's what Lahaina looks like right now. The temperature that the flames reached, I mean, they're having a hard time finding bodies, because they're having to do DNA, right? Because a lot of the bodies have been reduced to hardly anything. And for that to happen, the temperature for that to happen is 2,000 degrees.
Wow, just think of that. Like that's like, when I think about like blowing on hot coals in some timbering fire in a campground, I think about blowing on that. That's a small little breath that makes a little bit of heat there. But when you have a hurricane blowing on it,
right?
Wow,
it's something you can't even imagine. This just was like I said, the enormity of this situation is so deep, and it's going to take so long. I really hope and pray that the families that were affected can be supported enough that they don't have to, that they can stay here and there's not a migration like what happened with Katrina. Because those people from Katrina left and went to Houston and Dallas and Seattle and Memphis, and they never came back. And a lot of these families affected, these homes they were plantation homes, like that have been in the family for generations, 3, 4, 5 generations. And you're faced with situations where you're going to have a hard time rebuilding, and it's going to be years before you can rebuild. So there has to be some sort of agreement between county, federal, and Maui that we can rebuild and have them a place to stay so they don't leave. A lot of the population that were affected there is either elderly or small children. Like it's a very dynamic group of people that was affected, and it is
Yeah,
awful.
I was
They don't have
reading.
anywhere to go. I mean, old people.
I was reading about there was, I guess, up on the side of the hill, there was a retirement community that had just gotten filled, and it was built nicely, but with the poverty stricken in mind. And it was like a heaven sent situation for so many of the older generation there. Like I guess what I was reading and what that it is a very tight knit community, and that there was a lot of the elderly population there needed room, and they just like built this community for them, and it just got wiped out.
Yeah, so there's a big movement in Maui and Hawaii because of the shortage of housing that we currently already have. We're already experiencing. So a lot of people are living multi-family style, right? And they have a workforce housing initiative, and then they also have a housing initiative for basically they call them kapuna here, right? It's the senior citizens, the older generation, your grandparents. So they have already started. They built some down in South Maui, and they had already built some in Lahaina on the west side because it's funded by the government, right? And it's kind of like a lottery system in which you get approved to get into these homes.
Yeah.
And that was a brand new, unfortunately, there was one workforce housing development that was in a very tough, it's hard to believe, but it didn't get touched. And it's right there as the bypass goes down into Lahaina. Everything around it's,
Oh, I think I
burnt.
saw that. Yeah.
And then
Fires are kind of crazy like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of Waikuli area. It's Lahaina Luna area. I mean, it's just devastating to see it, and then to also have friends and family and friends, like people that I'm very close with that have lost everything, and restaurant owners. I mean, people, art galleries. You just down the line, it's just people lost their livelihoods, and if they were underinsured or didn't have a certain type of insurance, it's just catastrophic.
What do you think a matchstick would look like under a microscope? If you're looking at ash on the end of a stick very closely, I bet it would look a lot like what this satellite imagery looks like right here.
Yeah, it's not a good deal. It's hopefully there's a lot of hope in this. Like you were saying earlier, there's a lot of hope with the community that we're going to rebuild. It's going to be we just needed to try to have some resemblance to what it looked like. The historical buildings that went down had been here since the whaling years, hundreds of years ago. So there's some things that are never ever coming back. But
what about
just
this? I was reading about this banyan tree forest.
Like 100 years, 300 years old trees.
It's 185 years, yeah. So it covers basically a city block. So a banyan tree, it blooms outwards, and then roots are sprouted from its limbs into the ground. You've probably seen them in Bali, right?
Yeah,
so
they're badass.
They're awesome, right? And these things are huge. And this one had been there forever. And there's talk right now that the banyan tree may live, that the roots were so deep that the tree will be saved. So they've been watering it tightly, and that is going to be a big sign of hope for generations to come.
Oh yeah, that's like a symbol of hope for sure. Look at that. That's right. So this right here is the harbor that I was seeing, right, where everybody went for refuge. Can you imagine being like a block or two or three up here, and all of a sudden, your window is rattling because of embers hitting it, crack, 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 and then, man, I saw this one video of somebody escaping that it was straight up out of a movie. Like, I can't believe that people actually, I know that there's shit hitting the fan all over the planet, and I don't mean to be insensitive about this specific population, but man, this is just like so horrific. And to have to run from the fire into the harbor and jump and take refuge in the harbor, I just blows my mind.
Yep, I had a really good friend that had to stay in the water for 6 to 7 hours.
I heard that there's divers looking for bodies in the water.
Yep. So today there's still divers there. They're covering about a 4-mile stretch of the coast. all the way up from Lahaina up and kind of close to Kanapali. So there's about a 4 mile stretch that they've been constantly diving, looking for, remains and possessions and there's all kinds of stuff. Because if you've seen, there's a lot of cars parked on, you see some of the photos where it's just a line of traffic that were trying to get out. Those people got out of their cars and jumped over the seawall there.
Oh my God.
So I talked to a lot of the boat captains and people that were actually in the harbor that night. We had a camp out about this past Saturday night, and there was a lot of the survivors were there, and we just had a time where they could download and they could talk. It was one of Nick's real good friends. It was his birthday, so they all wanted to still come together and kind of hang out and talk and cook food, and we all got to listen to some unbelievably heroic stories. One of the guys got his family out and went back in and was able to save over $2 million in assets of his friends and family. He was just pulling boats and stuff out by hand and like getting people's motorcycles and going in their houses, grabbing safes, just trying to get as much stuff out of there as he could as the fires were beating down on it. And big old Samoan, pretty wild.
Can you imagine, like, you're honking and honking and honking and they're not moving and the fire's coming and you're like, fuck, just wow.
I've often thought about this because I was in one of these situations once where a fire was coming across and traffic was stuck. And I somehow was able to get out of that line of traffic and take a different road, and fire just roared over the entire highway of traffic. And so that got me thinking that, I feel like natural disasters can really happen to anybody, anywhere. And sometimes you have this false sense of security. And for this to happen in literal paradise is really shocking. But I'm wondering, for anybody who has been or will be going through a natural disaster, what's it like in the first few hours afterwards, the first day afterwards? Is there help right away? What happens?
No, it's a community effort. It's like you're looking after your brother, and you don't do, like, for me, it was like me and Nick, we just put our head down, and there was a lot of people in our group. So there was probably about 20 people that was with us, right? So we had this group of people. Some of them are teachers, some of them work in the harbor, some work in the golf industry. It was a wide variety of people. But you literally just put your head down and you just go and go and go until someone tells you got to stop. So it was pretty much that way for us. The first 6 days was intense, and we didn't look up to see who was helping. Really, we never saw the wave of help that we thought we would see at first. As you could probably see, Kai Lenny went on. I don't know if you knew Kai Lenny. He's a famous surfer, world-class surfer from Maui. He just did an interview with one of the mainstream media guys, and he explains it pretty well.
What's his name?
Kai Lenny.
How do you spell that? K-A-Y?
K-A-I. Yeah. He's a pretty influential character in the islands, and he's a really humble guy, and he stated it pretty well. Something, it was
Kai Lenny?
Yeah. But it was, we were there, the community's there to support and make sure we can stabilize as much as we can, whatever we could do, right? There's only so much that we can do. Some people have more resources than I had. So there was a lot of other people that were able to contact, commercial airlines that had access to big box stores, or there was people that had a lot of access to resources, and they were doing, 10 times what I was doing. So I was on the cog of things. It was just a little small cowboy convoy of a bunch of friends that said, look, we're going to have to do something as fast as we can. And that's all we did, was whatever we could do. We would ask them what they needed, and we would do as best we could to provide them with it. If that was a golf cart for moving supplies, if it was tents for covering it or tarps, if they needed tools, if they needed ice, if they needed insulin.
That's one thing that caught my attention, was when you were talking about how, you before you started fundraising, you started, using your own resources to help equip the local contractors to actually start, like the people that know how to build stuff and that know the workmen that have just had their entire estates incinerated and you actually, in order to help, with the relief, instead of just feeding people, like buying people equipment that's helpful, like buying assets to help with the cause was, I thought, was an interesting angle. And then
Yeah.
to think about
So
insulin, wow.
when we started doing it, we were getting some supplies from like Home Depot, and I said, you know what? I know the guy that we were first helping. He was a carpenter, and he had lost his shop, or he's a contractor. In his shop, he had 5 sets of tools for his carpenters that worked for him. He's like, I lost it all. The work truck's gone, air compressors are gone, my welder's gone, all my every generator's all gone. So between Nick and I, we were able to get generators, drill packs. Spent thousands of dollars getting these things together, and then trying to find individual contractors that they wanted to, they want to be prepared. 'Cause it'd be like whatever your career is, and all of a sudden someone took all your tools away, you would feel naked, you would feel hopeless.
Yeah.
So we wanted to
Yeah.
give them some hope, to give them the tools that can make them feel whole again as quick as we could, so that they felt like they could contribute, because that's what they've done their whole life.
Yeah, again, I'm going to put this back up here, guys. I'm hoping that you get the help that you need, bro. The fact that you're expending your own resources, it says a lot about you individually, but it sounds to me, the way you're talking about the community out there, that everybody's in it together. And I love to hear that. That's kind of how I roll. So again, this is the Lahaina Disaster Relief Fund via Kahului. That's, hopefully that, does well to help out. Every little bit, I'm sure, counts. Why don't you, Lief, share with the ladies here what you were telling me about bringing the kids the guns.
Oh yeah. So I had actually one of the girls that works in the restaurant. She had a bunch of toys that she wanted to donate, because she knew that I was making runs, which a lot of people do. I'm telling you, I've had people just come up to me in the middle of the day and be like, "Hey, I see what you're doing. We really appreciate it. We'd like to give this. If you can have this, just make this go to the right people. Toothbrushes, whatever it is." But we had this box of toys, so we pulled out all the little toy guns and put them in a box, and we knew we were going to visit with this guy who's he's actually an arborist, so we got some tree trimming tools for him. And then we also got work boots and got a generator, and then we had a lot of different things. But we knew he had a little boy, and who was about, I think he's 9 years old, and he didn't have anything. So when we got there, I pulled out this box of guns and set it down. I was like, "Hey, I got some guns for you." And they were like, "What?" And Nick actually did and opened it up, and they didn't know it was going to be toy guns, right? But they wore those guns out. They were running around the yard just playing. It was that was a very gut wrenching day. The stories that I heard that day. Yeah, visited with this gentleman who's a lot older, had lost his wife, and years before, right? And he's probably in his 70s, and he said that the flames were coming through his window, and he's running out the door, and he just grabbed one thing, and it was a picture of him and his wife on their wedding day, and that's all he has. It's just freaking.
Can you imagine the amount of stories, like devastating, heartbreaking stories?
Well,
hundreds, thousands of stories like that.
Thousands. That's what makes it so gut wrenching, is to think of just paradise living, and all of a sudden this is like a flame, boom, up like a match. Because I know we as humans, we like to think that the world is our playground, but obviously this shows you how fragile our lives are. Because what just happened in the grand scheme of things, as far as on Earth, wasn't even a planet fart. It was just like the Mother Earth isn't bothered at all. But wow, imagine how far and wide this runs, because Maui, that location right there, Lief, talk about the money at that area right there.
So yeah, for people that don't know, so Lahaina was like one of the original capitals of the Hawaiian Kingdom, and so there's a lot of royalty. The kings and queens all had homes there for hundreds of years. That was a very popular meeting spot, and it was at one point was more of a wetland area. So Lahaina is, you come to Maui every year. Lahaina has like the best Halloween in the islands. Like it's a major event. Like it's an economic event, much like Mardi Gras would be in New Orleans, right? It brings in a lot of people, a lot of money. All the some of the best artists on the planet live there. Fleetwood, Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood Mac had his personal, unbelievable restaurant right there right on the harbor. A lot of very influential people in the whole world had spaces right there on Front Street, because it does remind me a little bit of like a nicer
French Quarter,
urban street, French
Yeah,
Quarter type,
yeah.
old buildings, beautiful, awesome food, restaurants, art galleries, just with homes built, out from it. So it kind of resembles like a French Quarter type area.
I did 4 islands. I was in Hawaii for 6 weeks, 20 years ago, and we did 4 islands. And Maui was the second to the last one. But when we, went out to that edge out there, like you feel like you're going to the coolest place on earth. Like you're out there on the edge of a volcano, right where the volcano just peaks up out of the ocean, and driving along that coast up there, heading up into that town. And when you get in there, man, you feel like you're somewhere. I'll never forget that place, man. And the truth is though, they're gonna rebuild it. And there's gonna be a fence around that banyan tree that people are gonna be. This might become the most photographed place on earth soon. Like
they there's going to be rebuilt, and you just got to be able to, right now with the schools and the children, there's a lot of children displaced that are trying to make sure that they can get in a classroom. Like the depth of this disaster, I mean, it's going to shape a lot of it's going to be something that these younger kids never forget. Like it's such a impactful situation, and we just got to make sure we take care of these children and get them in schools and prepare like for their mental health, everyone's mental health. Like this is such a hard pill to swallow, because you go from literally having the last day of summer break before you go to school. They were going to school the next morning on the 9th. All the kids had all their school gear. They were all ready to see their friends and go back to school, and then everything's taken away. So the enormity of it is just so impactful.
I think that's probably the most important thing to mention, is that these kids need help. I don't think you know this about me, Lief, but I'm also a children's educator in music. And I know a lot about how important it is to support our kids in their learning and their emotional health, because they become the next adults that run the world. And if you have a damaged generation, it can mess things up for many generations. We talked about generational trauma in here once, and how that just passes down and passes down. And we have to support these kids in Maui right now so that they can recover and be the best generation they can be.
I heard that you want to make in order to help the kids, you want to plan a camping trip with the survivors.
Yes, so we did that camping trip last weekend. Last Saturday night we did a camping trip last Saturday night. What we're planning for the future, I'm doing a First Tee event with Mark Rolfing in the First Tee of Hawaii, and some of the we're basically there's a
what's a First Tee event for those of us that are
okay. So in golf, First Tee is like a little league for baseball, right? So any kid can play First Tee in golf. And there's a lot of golfers on this island. So the major sports for children out here, golf's a pretty big one. And I'm fortunate enough to have a golf facility. And so we're partnering with the First Tee, because there was over 50% of the employees that work at the golf courses on the west side lost their homes. So we're putting together a drive for children. We're going to have a lot of the big vendors like Callaway, TaylorMade, some of these guys come out and basically give children golf clubs, and we're going to have an all-day thing with food trucks and some music, and that's going to be October 21st. So we're trying to get raise some awareness for that, and try to have all those kids together, because on the First Tee in Hawaii, it's a big organization. Every island has their own chapter, and there's a couple of hundred kids in each chapter. So we're going to do that one, focused on those children. And then my best friend over at the YMCA is Mike Morris. He's the president of the YMCA here in Maui. He's been doing the YMCA guys have done an unbelievable job of raising money and taking care of children, and then trying to get them places to live on Maui. So it's like I said, the whole community, everybody's doing a crazy part. There's been a lot of overflow support that's been coming in.
Wow, wow. So speaking of best friends, I want to say shout outs to some of the people that have been hollering at us in the comments. This is my man, Peach Oles. That's my brother, man, and another brother, Keats. Thanks for showing up. He was talking. Check out Keats was talking about when he was in. He was out there in Lahaina, and he says that he's been there. Beautiful tree. I sat under it, chanting down Babylon a few times. So
Yeah.
these are my people. Lief, you might have met Boog. What up, Swede? He says. Boog hung out with me at La Batana a couple of times. It's one of my all-time top dogs. And then Bleak was a guest on the show a couple weeks ago. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for coming back. And you know, I love what you're talking about. How there's such a focus there on pulling everyone together, and with the focus on children like that, I think it's really something that we really need to get behind. We, like D-Rex said, we had a show a couple weeks ago about generational trauma, and man, since we had that show, I've had so many thoughts come to my head that I probably would never have thought of if we hadn't taken time to discuss that have kind of like been explanations that I've offered to myself for some of my idiosyncrasies. You know what I mean? And you never know what happens to a person when they're young and how it can affect them negatively, you know, down the road. They say, you know, if you turn 1 degree, if you just change your course 1 degree, the next step, you're not very far away from where you were going to be. But 1,000 steps later, you're nowhere near. So 1 degree of change can make a huge difference. And having something like this happen to you when you're a child, I mean, you know, if you're not feeling sympathetic because you feel like there's money in Maui and all those people out there, it's not like that, man. Like that Lahaina is an old community, and it's been inhabited for. It's isn't it one of the oldest towns on the major towns on the islands?
Yeah, Atlanta's one of the oldest towns. It was, you know, like I said, it was the capital of the kingdom. So the economic landscape of Maui and Hawaii itself is based around tourism, right? So with the recent tragedy, we're going to have a major economic impact that's probably going to hurt us for months and months to come, unless our tourism board and we kind of figure out some way to recoup what's about to happen, because a lot of the companies here have laid off, you know, 90 to 100% of their workforce. The restaurants, there's nobody in them. The hotels that are not on the west, the ones that are still open on the south side, are empty. I was down there, 2 days ago, and went on the beach. Not one person. Middle of the day, you know, usually packed. Went to one of the went to a restaurant at the Andaz, which is a very, very, you know, awesome resort, and it's usually slammed. There was one person swimming in a pool and one person sitting in a restaurant. There's going to be a huge economical impact of what's happened, and it's going to hurt. Like I said, the layers of what's going to happen. There's going to have to be people that are going to have to leave the island because there's not going to be work. There's no boat trips. There's no snorkeling trips. There's no diving trips. There's not a lot of activities going on. A lot of the restaurants are dead. The hotels are. I mean, it goes really, really deep from what's happened currently. So right now we're sitting at like 12% hotel occupancy, where they're usually hovering around 90%. Just to give you an example, Oahu right now is sitting at 80% occupancy, and we're at 12 to 15% at our hotel. So it's a big impact.
Wow.
Yeah, that is that's going to be tough for everybody. And you know how we were talking earlier about how when people were changing where they lived after Katrina, it's much harder here with Hawaii, because it's not like you just kind of drive over the border to the next state. It's very difficult.
Yeah, 6 hour.
Not only that, you know, suppose you live in New Orleans, you know what the next area is, the next state, you know what it's like generally. You've passed through. But if you're coming from Hawaii, paradise, it's unique. It's nothing like mainland. You know, it's just a complete shift in a way that you had never wanted your life to go.
No. It's and back to the other part. The kind of, I guess you would say, the personality of the island. There's a lot of blue collar workers here. The majority of the population isn't what you think it is. It isn't the wealthy millionaire living out here. There are some that live in the nice homes and stuff like that, but 85-90% of the population are having to work two jobs and live a couple of families deep in every home just so they can make it. So with this impacting all the hotels and all our jobs, it's going to be tough without any type of major federal aid coming from Uncle Sam. Unfortunately, there's going to have to be something happen. Just so you know, Maui is open. So Maui's open. West Maui is closed. Just respect West Maui and Lahaina. Respect that side. But Wailea, Kihei, Upcountry, Hana, Central, Kaului,
Kihei and Wailea. That's Wailea and Kihei. That's where I stayed when I was there, and that's like the cream of the crop right there, isn't it?
Dude, it's super nice. Kihei is a good spot. I lived in Kihei for 8 years. It's got a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of great restaurants, a lot of awesome people, and so does Wailea. I was just down there the other day, so I'll make sure that I'm still going out and supporting my fellow brothers by spending my money with them, so that I can help do whatever I can to keep the economy rolling.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that people should still come, because all I've been hearing is don't go to Hawaii right now. Don't take their resources. Don't go. Cancel your trips. And so that's not quite what we want to hear. So why don't you go ahead and let everybody know exactly what they should do?
Yeah, no, if you've got a trip already planned, go ahead and keep your plans. Like if you're call the hotel where you're going to be staying at, or the resort, or the Airbnb, and just make sure they're not in an affected area. And the affected area is Lahaina, right? So and Kanapali is where a lot of the people are staying that lost their homes. So in those areas, the restaurants will be opening up. I heard they're going to be like September-ish going to open up.
So if you're
Kanapali Golf Course, Kapalua Golf Course, I heard they're going to open up in September. But like, it's just especially if you're staying in South Maui, or if you're staying in Kihei or Wailea, yeah, definitely come. I mean, the Four Seasons is open, the Fairmont's open, Marriott's open, all those places are open, and you probably get a great deal right now too. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's what I've been shared with is people have been told the whole island has burned. It smells like smoke. It's not like that. It's
still beautiful.
It's still beautiful. I mean, I can walk outside. I can leave here in 5 minutes and be up on the side of a volcano and looking over just some vast, beautiful land, and be in a waterfall, or go to the beach and then go have a happy hour cocktail at Mama's or whatever, and you'll be just fine.
If you're watching the show here, you can see that up here. So Lahaina here is on basically the 9 o'clock of Maui. So you can get a look at what Maui looks like from the sky here. It's a bunch of mountains sticking out of the ocean there, right? And so Maui's just north of Big Island. It's two summits that are connected by like a strait, or I guess
a valley.
A valley. And so Lahaina's up here on the 9 o'clock, but you're talking about Kanapali's north of there. Kapalua, you said they're going to be opening up more. And then down here, Kihei and Wailea, that's
wide open.
This coast down here, that's where I was at. The sunset from there, because from Lahaina, you got this Lanai, what's that, Lanai, right? That's in so the sun sets on Lanai when you're in Lahaina a lot of the times, unless it's winter, right? But in the summer, from Kihei and Wailea, the sun is setting in between these two islands out there, and it is spectacular, man. I remember that is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, is seeing the sunset from that angle down there. And you're up here, in this valley, but you're saying Haleakala is still open. You can still go up there.
Yeah, still go up there. I mean, it's you go to sunrise at Haleakala. You can still go down and stay in Wailea. Go to the Black Sand Beach. You can go to Hana and do the road to Hana. Paia, which is a really cool like hippie town with a lot of art galleries and small, it's an old plantation style town, but has beautiful beaches and awesome shops.
I told you I did 6 weeks in Hawaii about 20 years ago, and we went to Haleakala for sunrise. And that blew my mind, being up there and having it be pitch black, and you can only tell where the ocean is because there's no stars there, but the stars kind of reflect off of it, and you can't really tell where the earth ends. You're up so high that it's too dark to see anything below you. It's just darkness. And then all of a sudden you see this stripe start to appear like in the darkness, and it becomes the horizon, and it's just a purple stripe, and then it becomes a blue stripe, and then it turns into a red stripe, and it becomes a rainbow, and all you see is like the sky opens up. It's the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
And then once the sun started, like the sunlight, being up so high, you're like 15,000 feet up there, right? So when you're up so high and you're looking down, like when the sun actually starts to hit the mountain where you are, and you can see the sun, what's below you, the sunlight hasn't hit yet. So you get to watch the world below you have the sun shine upon it. It is the most amazing thing. And having clouds out over top of the ocean. So when you're on the ground and the clouds are 1,000 feet above you, you think they're high above you. But when you're at 15,000 feet looking down at the ocean and you see clouds just laid out along the ocean that are 1,000 feet, they're far below you. And it's a mind-blowing scene, man. I really, honestly, I've thought about that since the day I was there. I've looked for that. I've traveled around in Indonesia, hiking volcanoes. I never saw anything like what I saw from Haleakala, man. It's spectacular.
I wish I could have came and saw you. I was planning on it.
So Ketchup says, why no aid, Biden? And then where's the best place to send money, she said. So I'm going to put that back up here for you, Ma. And
let's talk about that again, just in case people are just tuning in.
Yeah, so this is one of Lief. You go ahead and tell us a little bit again about how many different coordinated efforts are going on there, because this is, I'm sure, just one of many efforts that are people that are on the ground that are actually of the locals.
So there's a couple of really good local. There's a lot of different GoFundMe's and places you can donate out there. The Hawaii Community Fund is a really localized fund that's out there. It's called the Hawaii Community Fund. That's kind of the bigger one that's on Maui, and that that your money is going to go straight to somebody. But mine, the Lahaina Disaster Relief Fund, I just felt like I had to put something out there because I had so many contacts and so much of my network started sending money to my Venmo. And I was like, whoa, let me put together something so you can get a tax break, or so we can monitor this in a better way. And so we had a 501c3 already set up, because I've coached baseball all over the world. And I had a 501c3 in Georgia where I was the head coach of Team Georgia, which was a baseball organization, a really big one that's in Atlanta, Georgia. So Chris McCraney, a really good friend of mine who had just literally came out and stayed a couple of weeks with me just a few months ago here on Maui, very close friend. He said, what can we do? I said, hey, let's set up a GoFundMe that works to the 501c3 so people can get a tax break. So a large chunk had already been spent through the Venmo. And then we set up this 501c3 for anybody that wanted to donate to this Lahaina Disaster Relief Fund. That's why you're going to see where it says Team George on it. That's just the 501c3 that already had set up that we could go ahead and use, that is 100% tax deductible for anyone who would like to donate. But we're feeding people. So I fed 170 first responders today. I did 200 yesterday. So far over the first 2 weeks, we've fed over 3,000 people. We're doing. We've done over 1,000 gallons of fuel. We've done over 7,000 pounds of ice.
Tell us about that ice, man. That looks like can you imagine the coordinated effort that would take to be able to get? So I saw it looked like you had to have at least like 3 dozen big coolers full of ice that you guys were transporting. That one trip was like 40 ice chests full of them, and then we also had these big containers that look like hot tubs that we had did a couple days before. And my friend Tayani, he had a few that we filled up at several different places. So we used a couple different restaurants. We're like, hey, we're not open. You can come clear out this ice machine. So we were able to clear out some ice machines and fill those up. And I tell you, it was the stuff. People came to the vehicle when we pull up, and we had 4 or 5 trucks with trailers. It was like just people, boom, come to the truck, and with less than 5 minutes, everything was gone. Wow. The fuel, to the food, to the clothing, to the toiletries, to whatever it was that we were bringing, people were in need of stuff because they lost everything: toys, baseball equipment, school supplies. So that's a big thing YMCA's been doing. They've been doing, I think he's already done 300 backpacks that are full of these really cool supplies for the kids and everything. So they're going to try to see if they can make sure they get a backpack for every kid. So we're trying to support them. And a lot of these different places have supported me. So we're just trying to make us all work together as a community.
call him if I need something, or if he needs something dispersed, he can call me, and then I can get it. So our next big effort, we're going to try to go out this weekend. We just got Nick just shared an email with me. We got a response from Milwaukee Tools. So the big company, Milwaukee, that does the tools for like Home Depot, they're going to donate a bunch of tools. So we got a container coming from Seattle, and we're trying to coordinate to get those put together. And what I've been doing is been getting 55-gallon rolling trash cans and basically filling it up with every tool possible. So I fill it to the top, couple grand, and freaking roll them out, and then go gift it to somebody that's in need.
See, I think what's important for people to recognize, Leaf, is that, when I met you, bro, I was just another guy in the town, but I wasn't the only guy. You were networking from the day I met you, man. Like every other day, somebody else was talking about this guy Leaf in town, and like you just have this natural gravity about you that, I was telling Kara and D-Rex, I was like, I don't know if it's the eye contact, if he just tells good jokes. I don't know what it is, man. But and then also the fact that you're on a golf course. So, golf courses are like bars. They're like, they're like a social hub. What do you do when you want to have a networking connection with a business associate? You can go sit down in a cubicle. You can go play around, right? And I heard somebody say, and it was a celebrity, I can't remember who, because I'm not rich, but they were like, more money is exchanged on the golf course than on Wall Street. Like, golf courses where all the big stuff happens, But so you have a unique opportunity with the type of personality that you have, and with the type of work that you're in, where you have a very a good finger on the pulse of what's going on there, and that's why, because of that, that's why I feel so confident. And that's why I knew that as soon as I heard about that stuff, and it took me a couple of days because I'm not up on current events, but I knew as soon as I heard about it that you were going to be knee deep in it, and that's just how you roll.
Yeah, man, I just felt a huge responsibility to do whatever I could do, and it just kind of steamrolled into, next thing I know, I'm getting phone calls and texts from the people at the county, or people at Salvation Army, or people from the shelters. And when they asked me for something, I'm a yes man, and I said, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. And I just try to make it happen.
Amazing.
Hell yeah. So what do you, how do you see yourself spending the next few days and next few weeks? I mean, are you guys, are any of you back at work in any way?
I'm working right now. Yeah. Don't let my boss see this. Yeah, no, we've been pulling regular work days. But like I said, a lot of my friends and stuff aren't, because they've been laid off. So a lot of people, like in the boating industry and in the restaurant industry, there's not a lot of work. So they're literally saying, hey, I've got nothing going on. My company's, laid us off, or either their boat has been caught on fire.
I lost your sound, buddy. I lost your sound.
Can you hear me now? Hey.
Something weird going on, but yeah, it's getting better.
So a lot of people lost their jobs, so they have a lot of time on their hands, so they're calling me and say, hey, how can I volunteer? How can I help you? So I'm basically doing my job and just kind of coordinating people to go do things.
Gotcha. Well, I know you're busy, man, and I appreciate you taking some time out to do this.
Yeah,
I hope that.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm hopeful that we're gonna put this out into our airwaves, and I just wish you the best of luck, bro. I can't wait to see you again. So keep me in mind when you're gonna fly across the pond again.
I will, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's great to have you one more time. I'm just going to put this Lahaina Fund up here just one more time, so that anybody that is catching us late has a chance to check this out. This is something that Leif's personally coordinating. He's well connected in the community. He knows who needs help and how to get it straight to them. So go ahead and check this out, GoFundMe. But there was another one that you were saying, Leif, real quick, the Hawaiian Community Fund.
The Hawaiian Community Fund. You can find it on GoFundMe, or you can literally just Google Hawaiian Community Fund, and you'll see it's operated by the top people in our community, the presidents of the banks and the major construction companies, and it's the board of directors is some of the most influential people in the state. So they're going to be able to do something really positive with the money that they raise, and they've raised a lot. They've raised millions already. So there's a lot of good things they're doing towards tiny homes and infrastructure work and the harbor. There's just a lot of stuff in the mix, and I'm very fortunate and proud to be part of this community.
Hell yeah. And speaking of community, I got a lot of my homies in the community in this chat. Any of my fellas, Boog, Keats, Swells. If any of you guys got anything extra you can throw, Smiles, good to see you, bro. This dude is somebody that I trust just like I trust you guys. So, if you want to take part in putting your hand in the pile, this dude's as good as anybody that you could ever want to help. So I appreciate you guys coming into the chat box. Lief, I appreciate your time. Caro, D-Rex,
Lief.
I especially appreciate both of you. I definitely would not be able to do any of this without you. And, Lief, what I love about my lasting impression of what you said to me today was how hard you hammered the fact that it's a community effort out there, because like I always end every show with stating to always remember that we're all in this together. Always remember, no matter the weather, whether sunshine or rain, there's no joy without pain. Always remember. We're all in this together. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Thanks
again, Lief.
Yes,
Thank
man.
you.
But you gotta believe me, ain't nothing coming easy. My